What's up guys, it's Joe with J Blake Photo. Before we hop into today's video, I do have to acknowledge that I'm recording this video in the midst of the global pandemic of COVID-19. Things are a little crazy out there, so stay safe, stay healthy, and if you can, stay home. Now I just got back from Zion National Park where I did some camping, some hiking, and some mountain biking. I kind of want to go back if I can and stay there for a little bit longer. It feels safer there. But while I was gone, we got a huge bit of news out of Canon regarding the newly announced Canon EOS R5 mirrorless flagship camera. In addition, we got some new information recently about the dual card slots and an increased capacity battery. And because of the amount of information that's coming out, I've decided to do 2 videos. So there's going to be another video on my channel specifically about the card slots and the battery. This video is going to be about the improved or announced improved specs related to 8K video shooting. So let's get into it. Now just a quick reminder, if you like videos like this where we talk about specs and leaks and new cameras and all the cool stuff that's coming out, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that YouTube will notify you when I put in a new video. Also hit the like button, it really helps my channel relative to the YouTube algorithm and it helps people find me and my content. Lastly, if you haven't already, go ahead and find me over on Instagram. I am at jblakephoto, and over there I am posting photos from my recent trip to Zion National Park, as well as my trip recently to Maui. Unfortunately, my trip to Europe has been canceled as a result of the global pandemic, but hopefully I'll have some trips soon to have some great photos from. Now that business out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about these specs that we got. Interestingly enough, there's been a lot of speculations as to how much of the information that we were getting out of Canon was kind of smoke and mirrors, how much of it was fantasy, and they really clearly wanted to address that. So they released information to really make it clear to us, the public, that the product that they're going to be releasing, the product that they've announced, albeit potentially late, is definitely going to be in line with not only the specs that we're seeing, but previous releases from Canon from kind of back in the day when they revolutionized DSLR video. Specifically, I'm thinking about the 5D Mark II and the fact that it brought HD video to the DSLR world in a way that really was never available. So these specs, as Canon says, are not a fantasy. They are real. And they made it clear in their press release that they want these features, these specs, to be available to everybody, not just professional videographers that are spending, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on their cinema cameras or $60,000 on professional cinematography rigs, that they want everyone to have access to this kind of creative power, which again was the democratizing force behind the 5D Mark II. So really what we have here are 5 very important pieces of information. Number 1, the 8K video mode in the EOS R5 will not be time-lapse. It will be a legitimate, fully functional video recording mode, and it will record up to 30 frames per second. My assumption is we'll also get 24 frames per second as well, at least I hope. They didn't specifically mention it, but that's my assumption. So up to 30 frames per second. The reason that I find this very interesting is it plays into the idea that we may get a high frame rate 4K mode. If this camera can handle 8K at 30 frames per second, it should be able to handle 4K at 120 frames per second. We don't have that in this information. That's just me guessing. But I think if you do the math, you'll realize that 8K is 4 times the bandwidth of 4K. So if you can handle that much 8K, you can handle that much 4K. So that's my hope on the feature set here. But that clears up a really big question mark that we had on the specs from the EOS R5. If it's gonna be a full video mode, it's gonna have like a 2.5 crop or something crazy, right? Because there's no way that it's gonna be a full sensor readout. They're telling us it's a full sensor readout, at least full width. I'm assuming a 16:9. Now we don't have the actual dimensions of the sensor, the actual resolution, although in a previous video I mentioned that it was 45 megapixels. That was me really kind of misreading leaks and rumors versus the actual announcement. There was a lot of conflation going on at that time, so I apologize on that for those of you who noticed that mix-up. Now, to process that kind of bandwidth, you're going to have a significantly upgraded CPU in the camera, so I'm sure we'll be expecting an announcement about that soon or when they release the camera, because that is a lot of data. I'm also assuming that that's going to be compressed into HEVC or H.265. Next, if you remember when the EOS R came out, there was a big deal about the fact that you could do 4K 10-bit, but only if you connected it to an external recorder. Which there are a lot of cameras out there that give you access to higher spec video signals if you put it in an external recorder, because then it bypasses a lot of the bandwidth issues that you might have inside the camera, especially where heat and battery power is an issue. If you can directly connect to another device and offload that work, then you can probably bump up the bandwidth. So there were some people thinking, well, yeah, it'll do 8K, but it'll only do it externally. Well, we're being told very clearly that this will be an internal 8K recording. If you look back at the video that I released on the channel also today about the EOS R5, you're going to see that when we talk about dual card slots, there's one CF Express slot in there. At least that's what we're being told, which means that the reason they had to put CF Express in there was to be able to record this 8K footage. I'm still a little disappointed that we're only going to get one CF Express, but we'll see how that pans out. But internal 8K recording. Okay, so if we're gonna get 8K, it's a full video mode, it's internal, and it doesn't have a crop, well then there's no way that they'll be able to handle both the compression and the autofocus system. That is just gonna have no autofocus whatsoever, right? Well, no. They're actually telling us that not only will it have autofocus, but it will have improved dual pixel autofocus. Not only will we be getting full face and eye recognition, but also animal recognition. And from their release, they specifically said animal autofocus recognizing dogs, cats, and birds, relying not only on the eyes of the animal, but also face and body for situations when the eye is not visible. We're also going to be getting body autofocus for human beings, which is great. So we're getting legit 8K 30 frame per second video, internally recorded, no crop, full dual pixel autofocus, with dual pixel autofocus adding animals and body autofocus capability. That is all just pretty huge. Honestly, that is a huge bit of news. And of course, that's all in addition to the fact that we're going to get 12 frame per second mechanical shutter shooting, up to 20 frames per second with electronic shutter. We're going to get 5-axis in-body stabilization that's going to coordinate with the stabilization that's already available in their RF lenses with this new sensor and all the other bells and whistles that we're getting out of this camera. This is looking to be a pretty significant milestone just in cameras in general. Not just mirrorless and not just from Canon, but everywhere. This is going to be the instant market champion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nobody out there doing this kind of thing in one body. And when they release it, especially if they release it under $4,000, this thing is going to instantly become, I think, the king of cameras. There's also rumors that there might be other cameras coming out with even higher resolutions and additional features. We've got the 1DX Mark III coming out where everybody is just absolutely in love with its kind of hybrid functionality. So in a couple of years, we'll probably get a Mark IV or a R1 in the mirrorless line. Canon looks like they've really stepped up their game here. They were late to the party, but they are definitely bringing it now. Which makes me excited as a Canon user, as a Canon shooter. So that is just fantastic. So I hope that's just as exciting for you as it is for me. I hope you like videos like this where we kind of talk about these specs and we talk about this information that's been released. I mean, this is a huge bit of news. So very exciting. I hope you like videos like this. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you do. When you hit subscribe, hit the bell next to it. That way YouTube will tell you when I release a new video. And go ahead and like this video so that YouTube knows that this is the kind of videos that you like to watch. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram, where I'm posting photos from my recent trip to Zion National Park and to Maui. And hopefully soon I will be rescheduling my trip to Europe. Anyway, thanks a ton. I'll see you in the next video.